I knew I was screwed the minute Harper Davidson walked into our Monday compliance meeting wearing designer sneakers and announced we were sunsetting legacy processes. Sunsetting, like I was some old machine they found in a storage closet. I'm Bob Caldwell, 55 years old, and I'd been keeping this place out of federal hot water for 25 years. But apparently, that didn't matter anymore. Harper had this MBA confidence that comes from never actually dealing with real consequences. She strutted around with her protein smoothie talking about optimization and streamlining workflows. Meanwhile, we were 2 weeks out from the EPA Form 94C deadline, the one tied to our chemical storage permits that legally required my wet signature, not DocuSign, not some digital checkmark, mine. But Harper had a vision, and that vision apparently included firing the only guy in the building who knew how to file that form without getting the Environmental Protection Agency breathing down our necks with hazmat suits and federal subpoenas. Let me back up a bit. I started at Industrial Solutions Corp 25 years ago as a floor supervisor. Back then, we had a guy named Walt Kowalski running compliance, old Polish guy who'd been through 3 EPA crackdowns and knew every inspector by their first name. Walt taught me that regulations aren't suggestions. They're the difference between staying in business and explaining to a federal judge why you thought the rules didn't apply to you. When Walt retired in 2005, I moved into compliance full-time. Spent years learning every chemical storage protocol, every reporting requirement, every seasonal enforcement pattern the EPA runs. I built relationships with inspectors, understood their audit cycles, knew which violations they'd write warnings for, and which ones brought criminal referrals. In 2009, we almost got hammered with $1 million fine for missing a carbon reporting deadline. Some hotshot consultant had convinced management we could streamline the process. Sound familiar? I spent 6 months on the phone with regulators, calling in every favor I'd built up, proving we had good faith compliance history. We got a warning instead of a fine, but it was close, real close. That's when the company made me Director of Environmental Compliance and gave me exclusive federal filing authority. Smart move. For 15 years, we never missed a deadline, never failed an inspection, never saw our name in an EPA enforcement bulletin, until Harper showed up. She called it a modernization initiative, said we were overweight with legacy personnel. I asked if she'd reviewed the last audit report. She waved her hand like she was swatting a fly and said, "We're agile now, Bob. We don't need to be slaves to outdated processes." Then she actually laughed and said, "Don't worry, we'll put your binders in the company archive." Look, I get it. Compliance isn't sexy. It's not team-building exercises or pitching ideas to confused investors. It's paperwork, deadlines, and regulations thicker than Harper's sense of reality. But those regulations mattered. They kept our company name out of federal enforcement bulletins. They kept everyone's bonuses intact. Harper introduced herself at the all-hands meeting like she was auditioning for a TED Talk. "Hi, I'm Harper. I believe in innovation, efficiency, and breaking rules that don't serve us anymore." The room clapped. Someone even cheered. I sat there wondering which rule she planned to break first, chemical storage protocols or basic common sense. Within a week, she started calling me Old School Bob in team meetings. Said it like it was friendly, like we were buddies. "Old School Bob, do we really need to print these reports? We're killing trees here." Everyone laughed along. They wanted to keep their jobs. I didn't blame them, but I knew what Harper didn't know. Every single annual filing was tied to a chain of custody that ended with my signature. Not a job title, not a department, me personally. My name was on the EPA's authorized signatory list. My fingerprint was scanned into the Department of Environmental Oversight system. And if that filing wasn't submitted by a pre-cleared signatory, the whole operation risked getting flagged for federal audit. That meant delays, fines, and if they found even one missing hazard disclosure, maybe criminal referrals. I didn't say any of this to Harper. What I did do was open my desk drawer and start a fresh notebook titled Insurance. I wrote the date. Then I wrote, Harper referred to federal compliance requirements as bureaucratic theater in front of junior staff. I kept documenting. She started pushing hard for automation. "Let's digitize everything," she announced one morning. I watched her drop a folder labeled MSDS, formaldehyde storage, into the recycling bin like it was junk mail. I nearly said something, but I didn't. I just wrote it down. The company was too impressed by Harper's confidence. She spoke fast, quoted startup articles, and name-dropped her MBA program like it was scripture. Everyone wanted to believe she was the future. But I was the only one who remembered the past, like that close call in 2009 or the time in 2014 when an inspector showed up unannounced and found everything perfect because I'd been preparing for surprise visits since Walt's days. Harper wouldn't have lasted a week back then. But now I was the dinosaur, the legacy expense, the guy who still believed in doing things right instead of doing things fast. So I waited. And I documented. Because if there's one thing guys like me know how to do, it's keep accurate records. Every dismissive comment, every ignored procedure, every time Harper called my work bureaucratic theater, all of it went in the notebook. The storm was coming. I could feel it. It happened on a Friday afternoon. Harper strutted into the conference room like she'd just solved climate change. She had that MBA grin and a printed agenda titled Q3 Workforce Optimization. Corporate speak for layoffs, but with better fonts. No preamble, no HR representative with tissues and pamphlets. Just Harper, a can of sparkling water, and an expression that said she was about to revolutionize something. "Bob," she said like we were old fishing buddies, "this is difficult, but we're making strategic decisions for future growth. Your position is being eliminated for operational efficiency." There it was, the punchline I'd been waiting for. "Let's be honest," she continued. "It's just dead weight. We're not running a museum here." The words hit like a slap made of arrogance and ignorance, not because I hadn't expected it, I had, but because she said it with that smile, that condescending smile people wear when they think they've said something clever. I stared at her, silent. Not because I was stunned, but because I was choosing not to burn the building down. Harper mistook the silence for defeat. She stood up, slid a manila envelope across the table, and said, "Severance package. 6 weeks pay plus benefits through the end of the year. You've got 2 hours to clear out. 6 weeks for 25 years. That's what corporate efficiency looks like." Then she walked out, already typing on her phone, probably updating someone about her brilliant cost-cutting move. By the time I got to my desk, the whispers had started. I could smell the guilt in the air, burnt coffee and cowardice. The younger guys avoided eye contact like I had something contagious. My inbox pinged with a subject line, "Thank you for your service. Best wishes, Harper." She'd CC'd the whole company. Steve Murphy from HR wandered over looking like he'd swallowed broken glass. "I didn't know this was happening today," he muttered. "I thought we were doing formal offboarding next week." "Not your fault, Steve," I said, closing my laptop. "Harper likes efficiency." Steve nodded, looking miserable. "We need to schedule exit interviews, transition procedures. There's a lot of institutional knowledge to transfer." I almost laughed. Transfer to who? Harper's digital workflow system? Her spreadsheet with optional signature fields? "No need," I said, slipping 2 binders marked compliance, signed originals into my bag. I'm already clear on where this is headed. I took my time packing. Harper was in the glass conference room across the floor explaining something to the marketing team with big gestures. Everyone was laughing. Nobody looked my way except Nancy Walsh, the receptionist. She mouthed, "I'm sorry," and I nodded once. Here's what nobody understood about my job. It wasn't just filing forms. I was the human bridge between our company and a federal bureaucracy that doesn't negotiate. Every signature I put on EPA paperwork was backed by 25 years of relationship building, crisis management, and proving I knew what I was doing. When inspectors showed up, they asked for Bob Caldwell by name. When headquarters called with questions, they had my direct number. When crisis hit, and it always did, I was the guy who kept us out of federal court. Harper thought she could replace all that with a cloud-based solution and positive thinking. No one noticed when I logged into the EPA compliance portal and revoked my biometric access credentials. Standard departure procedure. When an authorized signatory leaves, their credentials get deactivated immediately. No malice, just policy. But here's the thing Harper didn't know. Getting new credentials approved takes 10 business days minimum. Background check, biometric scanning, supervisor verification, the whole federal bureaucracy dance. We had exactly 10 business days before the Form 94C deadline. No one noticed when I locked my filing cabinet and pocketed the key. 25 years of correspondence with regulators, inspection reports, precedent cases, all the institutional knowledge Harper thought was dead weight. No one noticed that I left a sticky note on my monitor. Call EPA in 10 business days. As I was wheeling my box toward the elevator, I heard Harper telling a junior developer, Boomers don't understand digital transformation. He probably thinks we need him to file paperwork. It's all automated now. I almost laughed. I almost turned around and explained exactly what kind of paper trail she'd just erased. But Harper didn't deserve an explanation. She deserved the education she was about to get. So I looked at her through the glass, smiled the way my grandfather used to smile before teaching someone a hard lesson, and walked out. The elevator ride down was quiet except for the hum of fluorescent lights. 25 years of keeping this place safe, and they sent me out like I was cleaning out a storage closet. I made it to my truck before the anger started. Not loud anger. The clean, focused kind that doesn't throw punches but documents everything. The kind that knows where the bodies are buried because I was the one who filed the burial permits. Back upstairs, while Harper celebrated her modernization victory, she had no idea what she'd just done. She'd eliminated the only person in the building who could legally submit federal compliance forms. And in 10 business days, when Form 94C was due, that was going to matter more than all her innovation and efficiency combined. I drove home, opened a beer, and started planning. The next week was peaceful. I spent Monday morning organizing my workshop, fixing a wobble in my drill press that had been bugging me for months. Tuesday, I cleaned my tackle box and sorted through old lures. Wednesday, I drove to the hardware store and bought paint for the garage. Normal retirement stuff, except I wasn't retired. I was waiting. Harper sent a company-wide email that Tuesday about streamlining legacy processes and moving everything to a modern cloud-based solution. She attached a flowchart showing her new system. I printed it out and had a good laugh over coffee. She'd built a spreadsheet with tabs labeled EPA stuff and signatures. Optional. Optional signatures for federal compliance forms. The woman was going to learn the hard way that the EPA doesn't care about your workflow optimization. Meanwhile, the real Department of Environmental Protection was ticking toward deadline day. They didn't care about Harper's innovation or her digital transformation. They cared about Form 94C being submitted on time, signed by a pre-approved agent, and archived according to federal regulations established in 1987. Not a digital checkmark, not Harper's revolutionary process. An actual signature from someone with actual authority. But I wasn't entirely heartless. When Carlos Rivera from Finance called Wednesday asking about quarterly chemical inventory procedures, I gave him Harper's direct number. She's handling all compliance now, I said. Very modern approach. But Bob, Carlos said, what about the EPA deadlines? Don't we have something due soon? Harper's got it covered, I told him. She streamlined everything. I could hear the worry in his voice, but Carlos was a smart guy. He'd figure out what was coming soon enough. Thursday morning, I was replacing the spark plugs in my truck when my neighbor Tom stopped by. Tom worked maintenance at the chemical plant across town, another old-timer who understood how things really worked. Heard you got the boot, he said, handing me a beer even though it was 10 a.m. Harper Davidson happened, I said, wiping my hands on a shop rag. MBA from Northwestern, thinks compliance is optional. Tom whistled low. When's your next EPA filing due? 6 business days, and she's got your credentials? Nope. Takes 10 business days to get new ones approved. Tom was quiet for a minute doing the math. Then he started laughing. Jesus, Bob, you're going to watch them burn from your front porch. I'm not watching anything burn, I said. I'm just not there to put out fires anymore. The weekend passed quietly. Saturday, I drove to the lake and caught 3 decent bass. Sunday, I watched football and grilled burgers. Normal stuff for a guy with nowhere to be Monday morning. But Monday morning came anyway. I was drinking coffee on my back porch when my phone started ringing. Unknown number, but I recognized the area code. EPA Regional Office. Mr. Caldwell, this is Inspector Janet Torres from Environmental Protection. We have some questions about Industrial Solutions Corp's upcoming Form 94C submission. I don't work there anymore, I said, as of last Friday. Long pause. I see. Who's handling federal compliance now? Harper Davidson, she's the new director. Very innovative approach to regulatory affairs. Another pause. Mr. Caldwell, our records show you as the sole authorized signatory for Industrial Solutions Corp. Has that been transferred? You'd have to ask Harper about that, I said. I'm just enjoying retirement. Inspector Torres didn't sound happy when she hung up. The call I'd been waiting for came Tuesday morning. Carlos Rivera, and his voice was shaky. Bob, we just got a letter from the EPA, something about Form 94C being overdue. It says we're subject to penalties up to $8.2 million. I set down my coffee cup. Forward me a copy for my records. The letter arrived in my email 5 minutes later. Official EPA letterhead, all caps subject line. Notice of non-compliance. Immediate action required. Department of Environmental Protection. Form 94C Chemical Storage and Emissions Report past due. Failure to submit by statutory deadline may result in fines up to $8.2 million. Suspension of operating permits and mandatory federal audit. Contact this office immediately. $8.2 million. For a form that takes 30 minutes to prepare and 1 minute to sign, if you know what you're doing, if you're authorized to sign it, if you haven't been fired by someone who thinks federal regulations are suggestions. I made fresh coffee, real slow, sat on my back porch and watched a squirrel systematically dismantle my bird feeder like he was conducting his own efficiency study. Then I opened my laptop and created a new folder. Insurance policy. First file. Screenshot of Harper's Slack message calling me dead weight. Second file, my termination letter dated exactly 10 business days before the filing deadline. Third file, the EPA letter from 6 months earlier thanking me personally for ensuring consistent regulatory compliance year over year. Fourth file, Harper's company-wide email about eliminating bureaucratic theater. Fifth file, a photo of my sticky note warning still sitting on my old monitor. Sixth file, the EPA compliance portal showing my revoked credentials, timestamp exactly matching my termination. I wasn't sending anything yet. This was still the quiet part, the setup. But I was building a case that would make any corporate lawyer's blood pressure spike. Because here's what Harper hadn't figured out. When you fire someone for being dead weight, you better make sure they weren't holding up the whole structure. My phone rang again. This time it was Steve Murphy from HR. Bob, we need to talk. Can you come in today? I don't work there anymore, Steve. Remember? Operational efficiency. This is about EPA compliance. There seems to be some confusion about signatory authority. I almost felt sorry for Steve. He was a decent guy caught in Harper's disaster. No confusion on my end, I said. Harper wanted to modernize everything. Looks like she succeeded. Bob, please. We're in serious trouble here. You should call Harper, I said. I hear she's very good with digital solutions. After I hung up, I sat there for a while, watching the squirrel finish off my bird feeder. Some problems solve themselves if you just give them enough time. The timer was ticking down, and Harper was about to learn that some things can't be disrupted, optimized, or streamlined. Some things just have to be done right. Wednesday afternoon, my phone rang again. James Whitfield from the board this time. His voice was tired, strained. Bob, we need to understand what happened with EPA compliance. Can you help us piece this together? I can send you some documentation, I said. For the record, that would be appreciated. I attached one PDF to my response email. No commentary, no threats. Just the internal policy memo from 2018 establishing my exclusive federal filing authority, signed by the CEO and 2 VPs, highlighted in yellow. All EPA compliance submissions must be executed by Robert Caldwell, Director of Environmental Compliance. No delegation or proxy authorized. The silence from corporate headquarters got real loud, real fast after that. The news hit Industrial Solutions Corp like a freight train on Thursday morning. Emergency meetings erupted in every glass office. Calendars suddenly filled with compliance crisis review appointments. Someone even called in outside legal counsel from Chicago. Harper scheduled an all-hands Zoom for noon. She opened with her usual casual tone, but you could hear the cracks underneath. Everyone, we've received a notice from the EPA regarding a missed filing deadline. This stems from an outdated process we've already modernized, so we're addressing it quickly. Outdated process, like the process had mailed itself to Washington with a resignation letter attached. Then Janet Kim, the VP of Legal, unmuted her microphone. Her voice was steady, professional, and sharp as a blade. Who had federal filing authority for Form 94C? The silence that followed could have stopped traffic. Harper's camera flickered. Her eyes darted off screen, probably toward some useless spreadsheet tab labeled Signatures, optional. She stammered about shared responsibility and transition periods, but legal just repeated, slower this time. Who had federal filing authority? By 3 p.m., legal had assembled a preliminary timeline, and it didn't look good for Harper's modernization narrative. Friday afternoon, my phone rang. James Whitfield again, but this time his voice was different. Defeated. "Bob, the EPA found something. They're saying someone tried to submit Form 94C with your signature, but it was filed electronically after your termination date. No biometric verification. They're calling it a falsified federal document." I set down my coffee. This was new information. Is that so? The submission came from Harper's computer. She typed your name in the signature field and submitted it Tuesday morning, trying to beat the deadline. Forgery. Federal document forgery. Harper had just escalated this from an $8.2 million fine to potential criminal charges. "That's unfortunate," I said. "Bob, we need your help. The board is meeting in emergency session. We're prepared to offer you a VP position, full restoration of benefits, and a formal apology." "That's generous, James. Let me think about it." But I wasn't thinking about their offer. I was thinking about Harper. Somewhere in that building, probably realizing she'd just committed a federal crime because she thought she could outsmart a system that had been working fine for 25 years. Monday morning brought more calls, this time from reporters. Someone had leaked Harper's Slack messages to the local business journal. The headline read, "Dead weight comment costs company millions." They wanted my side of the story. No comment, I told them all. "You should contact Industrial Solutions Corp's Media Relations Department," which was Harper, last I checked. Good luck with that interview. Tuesday, the CEO finally emerged from his mahogany bunker for a press conference. He looked like a man who'd spent the weekend in a federal prosecutor's office, which he probably had. "We acknowledge serious failures in our compliance transition process," he read from prepared remarks. "We're cooperating fully with federal investigators and have implemented immediate corrective measures." Corrective measures. Corporate speak for, we fired Harper and begged Bob to come back. Wednesday morning, I was replacing the oil in my truck when Steve Murphy called. "Bob, Harper's been placed on administrative leave pending investigation. The FBI wants to interview her about the falsified filing." FBI, Federal Bureau of Investigation. Harper had managed to turn a routine compliance issue into a federal criminal case in less than 2 weeks. "How's the new compliance system working out?" I asked. Steve didn't laugh. "Bob, please, we need you back. Name your terms." "I'll consider consulting work," I said. "My rate is $300 an hour, minimum 20 hours per week, and I want my old filing cabinet back with all the keys." "Done. When can you start?" "When Harper cleans out her office." That happened Thursday. I wasn't there to see it, but Carlos called me with the details. Harper showed up with a lawyer and 2 cardboard boxes. She was in and out in 30 minutes. No goodbyes, no farewell speech about innovation and efficiency. Just a woman who'd learned the hard way that some rules aren't suggestions. Friday morning, I drove back to Industrial Solutions Corp for the first time in 3 weeks. Nancy Walsh at the front desk smiled when she saw me. "Welcome back, Mr. Caldwell." "Thanks, Nancy. Good to be back." My old office was exactly as I'd left it, except someone had removed my sticky note and watered the plant I'd forgotten on the windowsill. My filing cabinet was unlocked, and there was a new key taped to the top drawer with a note. "Thanks for keeping us safe. J.W." I spent the morning reviewing Harper's modernized system. It was worse than I'd imagined. She'd tried to automate federal compliance with a spreadsheet that had more gaps than a hockey player's smile. No backup procedures, no audit trails, no understanding of legal requirements, just buzzwords and good intentions. The Form 94C took me 45 minutes to complete properly and submit. 25 years of experience distilled into a document that would keep us compliant for another year. Harper's digital transformation couldn't have done it in 25 days. By lunch, 3 other companies had called offering me VP positions. Word travels fast in the compliance world, especially when someone prevents an $8.2 million fine and a federal investigation. I accepted a consulting contract with Midwest Chemical instead. Better pay, remote work, and they actually respected institutional knowledge. Amazing concept. 6 months later, I was working from my shop, making more money than I ever did at Industrial Solutions Corp, and only traveling when I felt like it. Harper's last known position was seeking new opportunities on LinkedIn. The startup that hired her folded 4 months later after failing their first EPA inspection. The local business journal did a follow-up story called "Experience Matters," how one company learned the hard way. They interviewed me at the lake where I was fishing on a Tuesday morning because I could. Some people think experience is dead weight, I told the reporter while reeling in a nice bass. But experience is what keeps you out of federal court. The article ran with a photo of me holding that fish, smiling like a man who knew exactly what he was worth. Dead weight, Harper called me. Turns out the only dead weight was the MBA who thought she could disrupt her way past federal law. Me? I'm still here, still keeping companies safe, still signing forms the right way. Because some things never go out of style, like competence, accountability, and knowing the difference between innovation and disaster. The tackle box is organized, the workshop is clean, and the phone keeps ringing with job offers. Not bad for dead weight.